thrilled to be here today to talk with you about human connection and the transformative power of care. I remember being 3 years old, playing in the basement. My mom found me inside the fireplace. Now this was the 70s, we had the old wood-burning kind. She got me safely out, and she asked, "What are you doing?" So I told her, "I'm looking for the big bad wolf." So thinking about landscape and landscape change brings me back to my childhood. My sacred space was filled with tools, a workbench, and storage boxes neatly stowed away, and it was home to my vivid imagination. I still remember the chalkboard my dad nailed to the wall, those little white pieces of chalk my mom would bring home from her classroom. I would spend hours writing on my little board, playing school, and dreaming of changing the world. Long before I started studying care or getting a PhD, I was already learning about it. My lessons in how we transform our lives and our society began there, in a safe place to grow, to learn, and to wonder. I never did find the wolf, but I did find my calling. I'm a sociologist, qualitative researcher, and mother of 3. The other day, I was putting my 3-year-old daughter into her car seat, and I said to her, "I have a really important talk coming up. I'm feeling a little scared." She put her hands around my face, and she said, "Don't feel scared, Mom. I'm here for you." "I love you, Mom." So of course I smiled, I kissed her forehead, and I said, "Thanks, sweetie. You made me feel so much better." And she goes, "Yes, I did." So I've been teaching and researching for about 15 years. I've studied social issues like youth crime, violence against girls and women, and parenting. And as a sociologist, I'm concerned with the way that social forces out there impact us in here and how we influence our society. In my work, the youth that I've come across, no matter their DNA makeup, where they live, or their social position, they share one thing in common: insecure attachment and lack of attentive care. They have no safe, sacred space like the one I took for granted as a child. In the public imagination, these kids are nameless, faceless, invisible, masked by big bad wolf labels. And unless we truly value care, we will see the intergenerational effects of a care deficit playing out in violence, victimization, pain, and numbing. We may be wired for connection, but our early experiences foster healthy or unhealthy relationships. And when home and family don't plant the seeds of caring, children struggle to find love and a sense of place. And this is heartbreaking, because nothing is more fundamental to feeding our human spirit than care and love. I've interviewed kids who say, "Why should I care when no one cares for me?" This is more than data or finding. It's heartbreaking. We all need care. So I've been on a journey to get my head and heart around the meaning of care. And for me, I see care like the late Sarah Rudick did, as a practice. There's caring about and caring for. We care for all those tangible ways we show our support to those that we care about. Caring about is that feeling we have. I hope to ignite a spark, one that fuels a fire in the places inside us that bring us closer to one another. Care concerns how we think and feel about each other. Pema Chodron says that compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. She reminds us that compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity. One way that we show our compassion is with care. And for care to happen, 3 things coincide: an unmet need, a willing giver, and an accepting receiver. When I met Leah, she had gone through a lot of healing work. She was one of 78,000 children who grew up in the Canadian child welfare system. She went from placement to placement, different adoptive family, and then another adopted family. And Leah left home at 16, alone and pregnant. She told me, "It was horrible. The worst point of it, I was sleeping outside in an alley, and I felt worthless. This voice in my head said I'm worthless. No safe space. But hope comes from our ability as humans to cultivate a capacity for care. And the science says that children learn care through caring relationships and the experience of empathy. Leah's not alone. She's not alone in her need, her hunger for care. We all need care. Whether your story began like mine or resembles Leah's, we share a common humanity. Self-care and caring for one another is what makes us human. I see care as human sustenance. What might be in a bowl of care? Think about your caring helping and what a bowl of care might look like. I invite you to visualize that bowl is right here, and it's your bowl. It's been made especially for you, someone who you love, respect, and trust made it. And ask yourself, how does it make me feel? We are meaning makers. Care takes place in relationships with people who see the world differently than we do. We're social beings. I got so clear on this just a little while ago. I had a workshop, and in this workshop, I gave every participant a paper bowl, empty and blank. I asked them to design a bowl of care. They broke into groups of 2, and they were to pass on these bowls and share them. So this one bowl, picture the words respect, generosity, kindness, empathy, love, trust. This was what I will give in my bowl of care. The other bowl she got in return was blank. Her partner said to us, my bowl isn't empty, it is open, waiting to include what it is you need from me. I don't know what that is yet. So we all need care, but the care that we need is not all the same. We care with food. We give and we receive care packages, and they're usually full of food. We feed our bellies for energy, for healing, to meet our desires, for pleasure, or for community. Perhaps on a cold -22 night like tonight in Edmonton, it's a warm bowl of chili that gives us care. But on a hot morning in a Rio beach, it's an icy cool bowl of acai berries. If we have enough, we can access the resources that we require. We may not ask, where did it come from? Who made it? What's in it? We tend to assume that our needs for sustenance should be met. We have a right to food, and we deserve to be fed. Care seems to go that way too. Stories about who is expected to care and who is deserving of care affect how we treat each other. As a community, we can include or we can exclude. We can sympathize or we can empathize. Perhaps we're looking for people and places to be careful of, rather than seeing opportunities to be careful. Leah felt people were careful of her, seeing her as an addict, homeless woman, teen mom. And when we don't look past or take off big bad wolf masks, we don't see an opportunity for caring. Thoreau famously said, it's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. And transformation happens when we truly see each other and ourselves. From feeding a family to cleaning oil spills, disease to disaster, human beings are called to care for one another all the time. I'm concerned with what gets in the way of our willingness to give and receive care. And material resources are unevenly distributed. But there's something else preventing us from creating more caring systems and having more meaningful connections. I think it's how we see care and who we see deserving care. What if we saw care as a human habit? A human habit that we all practiced. Now, traditionally, care has been viewed as feminine. I know growing up, I learned females were smart and they were strong, but were supposed to be caring. But feminizing care obscures the humanity of taking care, and our innate capacity for caring is not gendered. Our social norms are. Casting care work as unmanly devalues care. It devalues women. Boys are still blamed, shamed, and harmed when they act in ways we've socially coded feminine. And girls are still blamed, shamed, and harmed for being girls, for being female. We raise the status of care and the status of women only when we recognize care's fundamental value to the human experience. We need to respect the rights of all girls and women to be full human beings, caring for and cared for. Women are uniquely situated to bring about social change to this end, but we need brave boys and men who are willing to be vulnerable, to practice a masculinity that includes care, empathy, and interdependence. So feeling cared for and caring for, that's what I felt at the moments when my children were born. I felt with friends, family, a loving partner around me, cared for and caring for. Leah and young moms like her often experience pregnancy and childbirth as isolating and fearful. Leah didn't have support, and she felt alone. I've interviewed young moms who talk about their experience, and what I've noticed is a care gap between women's responsibility for caring and women's right to care. Stories about deviant teen motherhood really place a stigma on young moms, and some internalize the message that they're incapable of caring and unworthy of care. When I hear their stories, I do see a narrative of systemic barriers, but I hear stories of courage and resiliency. I see an opening for care with young mothers. About a year ago, I met Devon. And I met Devon, I went to visit her at the hospital with her young son. I remember holding that precious new baby in my arms. This new life, full of hope and full of potential. I walked in with the care package. She was the ideal research participant. She was barely 18. She had a long history of challenges with her family. The father of the baby was actually in jail, and the mother did what support she could, but she had very little. Devon didn't need to be interviewed about the barriers that she faced. She just needed me to care. And I walked away knowing that. Cared for people, care for people. What I have found in my work is when care transforms, intention support is offered, and this builds capacity. This is more than responding to immediate crises. Building capacity transforms lives. And Leah and others that I have worked with and that I have learned about their stories, they are building caring relationships. In her case, she's caring and learning to be the mother that she wants to be with her 3-year-old daughter, just like mine. So you get to the TED stage, you have everything all planned out. You have your little talk that you know because you've done this before again and again and again. And you have so much you want to say, and you get here, and you wonder, is it coming across? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Am I saying things that make sense? And honestly, what I want to tell you is that I have learned what is so important is just caring. So I'll end with this. Care changes the history of our society, shapes our personal biographies, and the benefits of our willingness to give and receive care will be seen. They'll be seen in future generations, in children with secure attachment and attentive care. I want to live in a more caring and just world, one where all children matter. The youth that I have been researching with, they have big aspirations too. And like them, I'm still a little scared. Care is a practice. Sometimes we get it wrong, but we have to keep caring anyway. I'm starting my own organization called Cared Humanity. I'm running care circles in the community and doing what I can to try and make a more caring and just world for my children and for children globally. A few weeks ago, I had a timely encounter with Gwen. Gwen and I were sitting together having lunch and just casually chatting, as you do, and we were talking a little bit about our kids. Gwen shared with me that at 16, while still in high school, she got pregnant. So at 17, she had her first child. And I looked over and I started telling her just a little bit about my work, and her eyes welled up with tears. She said to me, if someone back then had treated me as a human being, not a teen mom, if someone had just cared because I deserved it, it would have made all the difference. When we expand our circle of compassion and open our heart space, we transform our lives, the lives of others, and our society. I think it's time we stop looking for big bad wolves and just care. Thank you.